So right behind me is an empty parking spot where our Ford Focus should be, but it didn't get returned yesterday. So yeah.
So yesterday our 2011 Ford Focus was
the one we just bought, that Ford Focus?
Yes.
Not the old Ford Focus we had forever. The brand new one?
Yes.
Like the first rental?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes to all of those questions.
Thank you for
Are
clarifying.
brand new to us, almost fully loaded, steal of a deal. Ford Focus was due back on its very first rental it ever went on the Turo platform, and it wasn't returned. So we got to go drop off a demand letter to do the first of many steps that are required in order to turn this into a legitimate legal process.
It's so far away too. All right, certified, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Turo process, whenever a car goes missing, the first 24 hours, you kind of just have to wait and see if the car gets returned, and then the actual legal process of getting your car back begins after 24 hours has passed. So by us sending that demand letter, we were kind of taking step one of this process and getting the ball rolling. Now, HP and I have only had to do this 5 different times over the last 4 years, and 2 of those times were this month. We had our Mazda 2, which went missing earlier this month, and then we have our Ford Focus. So I don't know what's in the water, but Turo renters have been pretty bad lately.
And if you haven't noticed, we got a new dog. No, not a new dog. That's Nemo, which is Aubrey's parents' dog. And she's relatively quiet, and we sometimes forget she's back there. She's kind of like Miss Daisy, but not so much sassy, just really old and sweet.
Something wrong back there, Miss Daisy?
Stop saying that, you're making me mad.
My parents adopted Nemo for me whenever I was 14 years old, and she turns 14 in March, so she's almost 14. And it's crazy to think that she's been around for almost, or I guess more now, than half of my life.
She's like 1,000 years old in dog years.
She turns 100 in dog years in June, so she's an old girl.
Now I know what you guys might be thinking. Our car is going missing 5 times, even though it's temporary, is pretty worrisome. But if you realize that we actually have over 2,000 trips underneath our belt on Turo alone, then out of that 5 times, it's really not that concerning at all. But it is kind of worrisome if you think about the fact that out of those 5 times, 2 of those missing vehicle incidents happened within a month apart. So should we be putting trackers on our cars?
Hey look, an Audi Q8.
You're not wrong.
You see, over the years, HP and I've never had trackers on our cars, and I think that ultimately the idea behind it stemmed from the fact that whenever we started Turo, we didn't really have the money. Like, I'm pretty sure that's why we never got them, is because trackers cost, they've kind of gotten cheaper over the years, but I think originally, like, to get one of the more mainstream ones was like maybe $200 to $250, and then like a $10 monthly subscription. And to be honest, whenever we first got started with Turo, we just were low on money, and I didn't want to spend that. And then I just kind of continue with that over the last 4 years because it's worked out so well. But I think to a degree, these types of instances are going to be a numbers game. After ever so many trips, this type of thing is going to happen. And as HP and I get more cars, we're going to be accumulating more trips quicker, and I think that these things are going to start happening more frequently. Especially now that Turo is becoming more mainstream, which means more renters are becoming aware of it. I'm all in all starting to doubt our entire philosophy of not having trackers.
Now, before you get mad at us, let us explain our reasoning as to why we still haven't gotten a tracker, even though we've made more money and we've practically tripled our Turo fleet since a lot of those vehicles were stolen before. Hi! Speaking of hey! Speaking of hey! Hello! Hello!
So whenever it comes down to why we opted out of trackers, even after we could afford it, it still does come down to money, but not exactly for the same reasons as before. You see, whenever I originally looked at buying trackers, they cost roughly $250 for the actual device. This is a tracker that goes into the car. And then it also cost about $10 per month to operate the tracker. Now, these prices have since gone down quite significantly, but these are kind of always the figures that have been in the back of my mind because it's just what I originally looked up. Now, if we take this into account with a 10-car Turo fleet, you're looking at a $2,500 initial investment just in the devices themselves. If you take the monthly service fee of 4 years worth of Turo paired with the initial investment, you're looking at roughly $7,300 spent purely on tracking devices and tracking services.
That's a lot of money. That's like the price of a car.
It is. It's more than the price of a car.
That costs more than most of our cars on Turo. If we start adding up all the numbers for these tracking services for all of our Turo cars, paired with how much money it would be if we lost one of these cars, it just simply doesn't make sense.
But nowadays, a lot has changed. Number one, the cars we buy on Turo are more expensive, and because of that, there's a little bit more risk whenever they don't get returned on time. Number two, our time is more valuable, and it's a bit more of a pain to deal with these types of things than it once was. And number three, the cost of trackers have actually gone down quite significantly over the years. What was once a $250 device now costs about $80 to $90, and there's an $8 per month monthly service fee. So then all of these things combined make me think, are we making a mistake by not having trackers on our cars? Now, there are a few things and a few reservations that I still have. Number one is the fact that I personally don't like having them in the cars, even for my own mental state of mind. I know that I tend to look at the trackers a lot, and HP looks at them like crazy. With the Maserati, HP was looking at the trackers on a daily basis. He was getting paranoid whenever people were driving too quickly. It just is something that I think isn't a great habit to get into. But the other concern is the fact that this is just an OBD2 port sensor. You literally just plug it in, and it's really easy to unplug. In fact, we had somebody on the Maserati that did that. They put foil around the plug to prevent us from being able to read what he was doing and how fast he was driving. And so just because you have a tracker doesn't mean you'll be able to track your cars in a case of emergency. So let us know down in the comments below what you guys recommend that we do. I definitely see the value in trackers, but I definitely see value in not having them either. But I'm not gonna lie, the last two vehicles that were returned very, very late got me a bit nervous because both of them were relatively new and really clean cars, and I do not like the idea of those cars disappearing altogether. As far as our 2011 Focus goes, as of right now, it still hasn't been returned. The renter is actually completely radio silent, meaning he's not responding to any of our messages, he's not reading our messages, he's not doing anything. This is actually the first time that a car has gone missing with really no context surrounding around why it went missing, which is of course making me a bit nervous as well. So only time will tell. We'll have to keep you guys updated.
But guys, as always, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.